Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UPressPlay Sports. I'm your host and sports editor, Richard Pereira. Joining me today is photo editor Eston Parker and staff writer Kevin Garcia. Good morning, guys. How has it been going?
You good? Looking forward to the semester being done.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I'm doing good.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the end of this semester, and of course that includes the football season. Only a couple of weeks left, unless we get a bowl game, which we might as well do. But we have some issues to take care of. As for the football team on Saturday, November 6th, they took on the Marshall Thundering Herd. And after taking a 13-7 lead against the Herd, Marshall scored 21 unanswered points as they took home, as they took down FEU 28-13 in an unfortunate home performance for the Owls. Guys, what are your thoughts on how FEU played against Marshall?
I thought the defense was really like our biggest problem. We just couldn't stop them from scoring. And I guess our offense was good. You know, our rushing offense especially was pretty good. Johnny Ford had like 140 yards. Kosi Perry was pretty efficient, 200 yards, a touchdown. Just we weren't able to execute when it really mattered. That those possessions that closer into the red zone, we just couldn't finish. And the defense was doing good at first, but then eventually, like you got to stay on the field and the offense, give the defense a break, and we just couldn't really execute throughout all four quarters in that aspect.
Yeah, and especially on defense. I mean, we got thrown all over us all game. Marshall racked up 351 passing yards and he got only one touchdown out of it, but still, I mean, you would hope that with the secondary we have, we could have done a little bit better. But at least offensively, our rushing attack continues to be doing very well. I mean, getting 5.2 yards to carry on 243 total yards. Like that's pretty solid. That is encouraging, but it's definitely disappointing, to lose our first home game since, was it Marshall in 2019? The last time we lost?
It was Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah, like getting beat by the same team who beat us at home. It's tough. It's tough. And with the loss, there goes FU's home winning streak of 13. So it's just very unfortunate. And watching the game, it like we started off very well offensively. Like we literally had a 13-7 lead going into the first quarter. But after that, especially when Johnny Ford had to exit the game because he wasn't feeling very well, and of course he eventually came back to play. But the first time he checked out is where FU lost its momentum, and then Marshall really got going, especially in the passing game where they just, ooh, Rasheen Ali from Marshall, he dude's an offensive monster. He's literally in the top 20 of the country with his stats, and it was just incredible. Like FU couldn't find a way to stop him. Like he just went off, and it was very tough. Like Rasheen Ali had like 90 net yards for 2 touchdowns on 18 carries. Like that's him in the rushing game. And then you look at him in the receiving end, he had 6 catches for 70 yards. So it shows how versatile, uh, it shows the type of versatile players Marshall has on their team. And it really hurt FAU. And it's not like once Marshall had that lead that FAU didn't have a chance to come back, because they did. And Nikosi Perry had plenty of good deep passes that could have resulted in touchdowns, that could have made the game closer, and could have sparked an amazing run from the Owls. Unfortunately, those deep passes were dropped, and that pretty much killed the momentum the Owls could have had in the second half because they were held scoreless and it was just a very tough defeat to swallow for them. And but I'm pretty sure they can bounce back, as on November 13th on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. they will take on Old Dominion, and that will be broadcast on ESPN Plus. So hopefully we can get another win on the road, second overall win on the road outside of Florida, and let's just hope for the best and see if we can win out the rest of the season so we can qualify, so we could still have our chance of qualifying for the title game intact. And moving on from FU football, we have FU soccer, and starting off with the women's this time, their tournament ended on Wednesday with a 2-1 loss in the quarterfinals against Southern Miss, the same team who beat FEU in the spring of 2021. Eston, what are your thoughts on FEU losing that game, and how should they carry out moving forward?
I think they played Southern Miss really well. They created a lot of chances, and it was a really active game. The only problem is that it was almost, I hate to use this comparison, but it was almost like a FIFA game where you put up way more shots than your opponent, but you don't get any goals out of it. And then your opponent will put up, 3 or 4 shots, and one of them just happens to go in. And Southern Miss came out early and got a really quick lead in the game, which I think took a lot of it. When you're playing from behind all game, it's tough, especially with a really talented team like Southern Miss is. But yeah, I mean, I'd say credit to this women's team for, pulling through and having altogether, I'd say a solid season. There was a period of time where we weren't, we're going to put the red flags up, but there were it looked a little tough, for a few points. So I'd say altogether, while it's a disappointing end to the season, literally losing the exact same ways you did last season, I'd still say altogether, you still have pieces to build on with this team. So
yeah, definitely. Like, they didn't have a terrible season. It was just a season of, like, it was mostly up and down. Then they started getting momentum with a winning streak. Then, like, making their best efforts to go as far as they can in the quarterfinals, but just couldn't get it done, especially against a solid Southern Miss squad. But yeah, they do have pieces that they can build on for next year, and we could definitely see a much better women's squad from here on out. And next up is men's soccer, and as they went out to play Kentucky, who was ranked number 12 in the nation on Friday, November 5th. And even though they lost 3-0, thanks to Old Dominion doing FU a favor by beating the South Carolina Gamecocks 3-2, FU qualified for the tournament as the 6th seed, and they will take on the University of Charlotte, who is the 3rd seed, on Wednesday, November 10 at 7 p.m., and it will be broadcast on ESPN Plus. Eston, what are your thoughts on FEU's chances going into this game against Charlotte, and especially with Charlotte being the host of this tournament?
I'm not going to count FAU out, obviously. It's going to be really tough, though, I will say. I mean, the last time they faced Charlotte, it was at home. They just got completely outplayed and lost 5-1. And FAU, we haven't scored in the last 2 games. Another thing, when as I'm looking through the schedule, the 3 ranked teams we played, Marshall, FIU, and Kentucky, we haven't scored a single goal against the ranked team. And I think they should see what happened with the women's team and essentially see, if you try to get an early lead or don't fall early. Because obviously, like you said, Rich, Charlotte's hosting it. This is basically a home game. This is a home game for them. So I think they need to play to the best of their ability and nothing less of that in order to make a big run in this tournament. So
Yeah, and FAU didn't play particularly bad on the road. They have a record of 3 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. So which is not too bad, and actually much better than how they played in the spring season. So hopefully we can have a much better performance against Charlotte, especially after we lost 5-1 to them at home. And but yeah, Charlotte is going to be a difficult game, but FU does have underdog energy, and but man, it would be great to see the team get to the semifinals, but it's going to take a lot. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And for our last topic of FU sports is FU basketball. As on Wednesday, November 10, both the men's and women's teams will be playing. The women's at home and the men's on the road. The men's will play New Mexico on Wednesday, November 10, and the women's will take on Palm Beach Atlantic. Eston and Kevin, both teams were coming off of seasons where they both made the quarterfinals in their respective conference tournaments. And the men's soccer continued its consistency with overall winning seasons. Like they have consecutive, so they have like 3-4 straight winning seasons as an overall. And the women's team like pretty much had one of its best seasons, especially being led by Iggy Allen throughout last season, as she took them all the way to the quarterfinals before they unfortunately ended there. This season, the women's team doesn't have Iggy Allen as she went to Old Dominion, but with them having a new head coach in Jennifer Sullivan, who is approaching her first season as a head coach. What are your thoughts on their potential going into this season?
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, Kev, for the women's team, I guess the biggest question is who's going to be the biggest playmaker? Because like you said, Richard, we talked about this a lot last season. Iggy Allen, it seemed like every game she was going to do something that would just wow us, and that was a lot of fun to watch. But it was a very one-dimensional team very often because of it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Sullivan is able to, utilize the offense and really, like I said, just get more creativity out of players that, we didn't maybe see as much of last season. So.
Yeah, I mean, if the exhibition game that the women played was that 2-3 days ago, if that's any sign of indication of what the season is going to be like, I mean, I know it's just an exhibition game, but we did get to the free throw line 19 times. I mean, that's big, getting to the free throw line. And then, yeah, like you said, Eston's a pretty good point. We want to see who the playmaker is. I don't really know where that's going to come from, but if one of the ladies can step up and we can see somebody distributing, really creating a more pass-friendly offense, things could look up for us. And yeah, I mean, we also, that exhibition game, we scored 36 points in the fourth quarter. Now, I know that's probably not repeatable, but that's a pretty good sign for what's to come.
And yeah, the women's team, if they don't have a number one option as their best scorer, they should prioritize having a well-balanced scoring attack, well-balanced attack on the offensive end and providing solid defense on the other end. And for the men's team, they look pretty interesting. Like they did lose a few key players in Jalen Ingram and Carlos Sillins, who was one of their best players in the front court, but they did retool, and they do have an interesting rookie in Trey Carroll as a freshman. He was like a heavily touted recruit in high school, and with FU having him on their squad, they they could have something. They could have something there, and they did retool their roster. Like they now have plenty of scorers that they can rely on. That doesn't need it's pretty much next man up potential from the men's team, and it will be like it's for both men's and women's. I think their seasons will be very interesting. And Eston, do you think the men's and women's team would be? It's going to be very wild card like of them to really do well this season.
Yeah, I think my expectation for both teams, and I think this is still realistic, is making the tournament. And whether or not, I think it's too early to say how far they can go. But I think at least making an appearance should be the expectation. So, and again, like you said, with for the men's team, it's the next man up. They're already dealing with one injury. I know. I think it was Nick Boyd. He didn't play because I noticed during media day he didn't practice. He was hurt. So, and I'm not sure if he played against Lynn, but this is like you said, if someone gets hurt, someone's got to step up and continue the momentum they have. So,
yeah, definitely. And with that will end our time with FU Sports. And we'll move on to the national level with NFL football as week 9 passed. Well, yeah, week 9 finished, and each of our respective teams won. The Patriots beat the Panthers 24-6. Eston's Dolphins beat the Texans 17-9. And Kevin's New York Giants beating the Raiders 23-16. So, guys, what are your thoughts on a week 9 of football?
I was shocked to say the least that we beat the Raiders, even though it was a home game. I'm still shocked that we still beat them. We wanted to give that game away. There was plenty of opportunities, Daniel Jones fumbling or throwing an interception, but nevertheless, the defense came through. We were able to get big stops, so that was a good sign. I don't know what could happen in the NFC. The playoffs are so wide open, so there's always potential that the Giants can go on a run and could sneak their way into maybe the 7th seed or something, but get a wild card spot. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not really getting my hopes up though, because the Raiders, they're also in a free fall. I think this game says more about the Raiders than it does about the New York Giants. They're just in a free fall. Henry Ruggs, that whole situation with him is very unfortunate. Coach Gruden, they just had to dismiss one of their cornerbacks because he threatened somebody on social media or something like that. So there's just so much turmoil in the Las Vegas Raiders organization right now. So I think this game is more of a sacrament of that than it is of the Giants starting to turn things around.
And Kevin, going off, you said the Raiders no longer have that. I think that cornerback that you mentioned was their other first-round pick in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have they no longer have a first-round pick from 2020. All those draft picks that they've accumulated over the years with what was the Gruden and forgetting the GM's name, Mike Mayock, I think.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, used to be with NFL Network. Kind of seeing the cracks have been getting bigger and bigger, wider and wider, I should say, this season. But huge win for your Giants. Another news: my Dolphins won the battle of the worst teams in the league.
Battle for the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, and at this point, I'll take it. Still not sure why Tua didn't play. I know he was dealing with a minor injury, but he looked fine in warmups and apparently in practice this week. He looked fine. I don't know. It's a little awkward also facing the Texans after all the Deshaun Watson news in the last few weeks. But what a weekend of upsets, though. I mean, how about the Jags beating the Bills? What?
6, but if you put it in reverse.
True. Um,
Oh man.
and even when you think about it, even the Broncos getting a huge win over the Cowboys. Whoa. Yeah. So it was definitely a fun weekend. Really topsy-turvy.
Yeah, this week cost a lot of people money with all the upsets. Like a lot of people had money on the Cowboys and the Bills, and yeah, they've screwed up a lot of parlays.
Yeah, honestly tough. And each of our respective teams won, so we're all good for this week. And for our last topic of the day is NBA basketball, as week 3 finished, and there was a few moments of why did this have to happen? And I'll go with the first one, the most recent one that happened last night on Monday, and it was Nikola Jokic shoving Markieff Morris to the floor after Morris committed a foul against him. Eston, I want to know your thoughts on that play.
Well, first off, tops off to Markieff Morris. He's a professional flopper. You love to see it. Granted, I'm sure Jokic, that man is very strong. So I'm sure it wasn't a complete flop. But love the response from the team. Jimmy Butler.
Oh yeah, Jimmy.
Talking the trash as usual. You love to see it. Unfortunately we lost, but happens. We'll say still looking good. 7-3. I feel really good, and being in Denver, it's tough. You're facing the MVP. Despite I feel like a lot of people may have forgotten that Jokic was the MVP last season. So yeah. I saw it and it gave me TJ Warren vibes, when Jimmy Butler and Warren were going at it back then. But yeah, I still feel pretty good about this team. I feel really good about this team, actually.
Kevin?
Oh, I was just gonna say on the Heat and Nuggets. Yeah, that was anytime somebody gets into it with Jokic, I fear for their life. Because have you guys seen Jokic's brothers? They're very scary individuals. Like the Jokic mafia. This is the thing. I don't know, man. Hopefully Markieff Morris made it out of Denver okay, because I just fear for their life. But for me, the Knicks, we played twice. The biggest highlight would probably be Sunday. Ricky Rubio scoring 37 points in the Garden, making 8 threes. The Cleveland Cavaliers with I guess you could call it an upset win, but they're better than a lot of people projected.
It's an upset win.
I was just, oh man, I didn't want to talk to anybody after that game. I needed a few minutes to cool off after that. I couldn't believe it. Ricky Rubio he went from averaging like 7 points a game. All of a sudden he can't miss a three. He's looking like Kobe or Klay Thompson or somebody out there. Unbelievable. Only in the Garden. But at least we beat the Sixers, barely beat the Sixers without Embiid and Thibault and Simmons, and pretty much their whole team had COVID. So we somehow escaped with a win there, though. I'm not happy right now as a Knicks fan. I'll be honest.
And yeah, as a Celtics fan, I'm having a tough time too. Like, we're under 500. We lost to the Mavericks on a game winner from Luka Doncic from the Mavs, and
Saw that.
It's tough. But it is very interesting to see how the standings have played out in like the first 10 games this season. Like, I do want to talk about the West first, and Golden State with a record of 9-1, and they just had Curry drop 50 points against the Atlanta Hawks. That is incredible, and it just shows that the Warriors are here to stay. Like, they really never left. They just had a few years of. They needed a few years to recover, especially after 4 straight NBA Finals appearances. And man, they're back. And once they get Clay, oof, they're gonna be they're gonna be very dangerous, and they're gonna be very hard to beat. They have to be the team to beat in the Western Conference when they're fully healthy. And going back to the East, yes, the Knicks did beat the Sixers, even though they had a couple of players out, especially Embiid. And I do want to talk about the Chicago Bulls as they blew out the Brooklyn Nets by 23 points. And
Shocking.
yeah, and it goes to show that Chicago, they are a serious team. Like, sure, they had in the first week they played some pretty easy games against Detroit and New Orleans, but they are for real. And beating the Nets with Kevin, who had Kevin Durant and James Harden in this game, that is pretty significant. And Chicago should be a team that people have to take seriously from here on out.
Absolutely. They're a team to watch for sure. To be like that surprise team that makes a deep playoff run.
And for the 6th man of the year conversation, there's Tyler Hero, and then there's of course Carmelo Anthony, who pretty much led the Lakers off the bench with 29 points in an overtime victory against the LaMelo Ball led Charlotte Hornets, 126 to 123, and it's just wow, like what a great stat line for Melo. He is going for that 6th man of the year campaign.
Yeah, I was watching that game and I was just getting like 2012, 2013 Knicks vibes from him. He was just it was like a throwback game, and this season's been a throwback for him. He's doing it more on the 3 than he is doing it more at ISO mid-range. But what this says more to me is that Melo has looked at the game and how it's changed and how it kind of was starting to leave him behind. And he started to pick up with the times and get it, get to the present time. And he's shooting more threes. He looks more comfortable doing that. It's really fun to watch. It's great. Like, it's just great to see Melo doing well as a fan of his.
Yeah, definitely. Eston, your thoughts on Melo just really keeping it up for his performances?
It's great to see him, making a mini resurgence and continuing to find a role, and making the most of that role. Kevin, like you said, I think he realizes that he's no longer like a number one, or he's not the guy, but if he can make the most of his role, he still has a spot in the league. And I think he's one of those players where the league is better when he's there. So yeah, it's great. It's great to see him still contributing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope he stays in the running for 6th man of the year, as it is a very good contest between him and Tyler Hero right now.
Hey, what about Derrick Rose? He doesn't get a mention?
Right now, he's not performing as well as Tyler Hero and Melo have to start the season, but he'll be in the conversation. He'll stay there. But right now, it's Tyler Hero and Carmelo Anthony.
Hero's going off. What's he averaging? Like 25 points a game, something like that. He's having a good season. So
I think it's over 20 a game. It has to be.
Yeah, 20. I think it's like 25, 24, somewhere in that range. Let me see.
Yeah, it's going. Tyler Hero has been going off, and it's just crazy. But it definitely helps Miami in the long run.
Yeah, he's averaging 21 points a game. It's pretty solid.
Pretty close. But yeah, I knew he was definitely averaging over 20 a game, but that just goes to show you that he's determined to make an impact this season, and right now Miami's benefiting from that.
He got tired of hearing all the noise. So people were saying, "Oh, he was just a product of the bubble. He couldn't do it in front of crowds," and he's putting that narrative to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, that'll be it for this episode of UPressPlay Sports. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Click the bell to keep up with notifications. Also, be sure to go on upressonline.com to keep up with news, sports, and more content alike. To follow us on Twitter, it's at Rich26 Pereira. For Eston, it's at Eston Parker. And for Kevin, at Kevin Gar 658. Thanks for watching and have a great day.